It is my pleasure to welcome you all to the 72nd Annual General Meeting of the International Board of the Weizmann Institute of Science. Needless to say, it would have been greater pleasure to welcome you here in person. Believe me when I say I had all sorts of scenarios about how my first year as president will turn out, and I can guarantee you that this wasn't one of them. On the other hand, the virtual nature of the current board meeting enables us to bring Weizmann to your doorsteps and into your homes, and also to open up to a broader audience. So hello to everyone, near and far. I am very happy that you are here with us. While this has been a year of sticking close to home and restricting our travel, we have recruited all our resources, and although grounded physically, we have been able to spread our wings in many other directions this year. Some of you may remember that last year I chose trees to convey the concept of growth and expansion. This year I'm aiming a little bit higher, toward the treetops and the birds. I'm doing that partly because I feel that although we have been grounded physically, our wings have not been clipped by this pandemic, and we have been able to overcome barriers and fly in new directions. So let's start by talking about the coronavirus pandemic. How did a virus, a microscopic microbe made of clusters of genes and protein, just send the world into disarray? And how will we overcome it? These are the questions that everyone around the world is asking. So this year has demonstrated that today, more than ever, the world is looking to science for answer. Better testing methods, diagnostics, vaccines, and drugs aren't going to come from anywhere else but from science. And we can actually contribute to a solution. So like every other organization, we have had to cope with lockdowns and national regulations while still trying to maintain business as usual as much as we can. But as a scientific institution, we have a critical role to play in offering answer to the world and possibly a contribution to a cure. Within a few weeks of start of the pandemic, more than 60 projects sprouted up across campus, focused on better understanding COVID-19. These projects include developing faster and safer tests for detecting the virus, helping reveal its structure and genetics, and improving methods for contact tracing and tracking the spread. You will hear later on from some of our scientists working on approaches to curing and preventing the disease. So while basic research is in our DNA, so is our instinct for using our knowledge to help. In fact, our scientists thrive when facing challenges. So it was just instinctive to go back to the lab and start applying their expertise to the virus. It was a totally bottom-up, grassrooted effort reflecting our scientists' agility and curiosity and the environment of academic freedom. This is the philosophical hallmark of the Weizmann Institute. The challenge actually caused us to fly a bit further, a bit higher, beyond our own territory of basic research. We find ourselves in a different landscape that requires us to apply our urgent attention to a specific disease. Many things around us have slowed down, but there is a silver lining. In fact, a recent study by my neurobiology colleague, Professor Rafi Malach, provides strong scientific evidence that when things slow down and much less is going on around us, our brain springs into creativity mode. Rafi and his lab members figured out that this so-called resting state, when very slow fluctuation of neuronal activity take place, this is precisely the mechanism underlying creativity. So now I invite you all, in the comfort of your homes, to practice your resting state, and I will continue. This is just one example that underlies my belief that these challenging times will lead to a new and promising outcome in science. Great outcomes aren't just the result of work done in our labs by ourselves. They arise in partnership with an ecosystem that includes scientists throughout the world and colleagues in other Israeli scientific and medical institutions. we are very excited about one special new development that will be part of our flagship project in artificial intelligence. The new normalization agreement between Israel and the UAE has enabled us to create new scientific partnership. In September, we signed a memorandum for understanding with the Mohammed bin Zayed University of Artificial Intelligence in Abu Dhabi. We will soon travel to the UAE to discuss the detailed agreement. The best kind of science is borderless, and the more cross-border collaboration we do, the more we minimize the space political dispute takes up. One excellent example of that is Making Connection UK, a program of Weizmann UK which is now in its bat mitzvah year, 12 years in the running. Thanks to the generosity of UK donors, more than 60 grants for joint research between Weizmann scientists and UK colleagues have been funded since the program started in 2008. Making Connection France has utilized this model and the historic partnership with the Pasteur Institute to build this new initiative. We are very happy to see this program developing beautifully in France. We are also spreading our wings in the clinical sphere here in Israel, and I'm excited about our new collaboration with Schneider Children's Hospital for joint pediatric research across a range of disease areas. As you know, we are a relatively small institution, and we are going to stay compact. Our size is one of our strengths, but we are growing to some extent. Our overall student and postdoc body has grown over the last decade by approximately 20%. In particular, our foreign students, masters, and doctoral students population is growing quite a bit. Since science is an international endeavor, we need to ensure that our campus continues to be an international hub of science. Our goal is to expand our interfaces with partners overseas, which ultimately enriched our science. This is visible at the Gershon Kax International Office, which supports foreign scientists and students. It has been working around the clock during the pandemic to attend to all the travel challenges and restrictions and oversee quarantine housing for those who have arrived from abroad. After nesting comes migration. About 2/3 of our postdoc population is from other countries. We are in the final planning stages of the US Weizmann International Residence, which will be a beautiful modern apartment building and a hive of activity for postdocs. Our American friends are making this building a fundraising priority. And here I want to tell you something surprising. We expected that because of the pandemic, we would experience a dramatic decline in the number of students and postdoc applications from abroad. But the opposite has happened. Our postdocs and student applications have increased. We don't know exactly why, but we think that the hyper-focus on science right now may be the reason. Another example of flying higher. Just as important as diversifying by country of origin is diversifying gender. Our Women in Science program have been very successful under the leadership of Professor Leah Haddadi and have expanded in scope and number. Our Israeli National Postdoctoral Program for Advancing Women in Science, whose pillar donors are the Clore Foundation and the Refson Foundation, has funded 136 women doing postdocs abroad since 2007. A total of 64% have attained faculty track position in Israeli academia. 15 of these women scientists have received position at the Weizmann Institute. This is a huge success. We also created a new position for advancing diversity. We hired Dr. Meital Eran-Yona for this role, and she comes with many years of experience. There is much work to be done, but our goal is clear. Diverse science is strong science. A community that values equality is a guarantee for future success. While we always talk about science working to benefit humanity, I like to think of this effort as ensuring that all of humanity is working to benefit science. Our philosophy has always been that best people makes for the best science. The postdoctoral period is a critical period in their journey on the road to excellence. A good postdoctoral fellowship can be the wind beneath the wings for new scientists, allowing them to lift off and begin to soar. As a result of the current situation, some Israeli postdocs doing their fellowship abroad have been forced to return to Israel prematurely. And Israeli PhD graduates who had planned on carrying out postdoc research overseas have not been able to leave. This led us to create a way station for these talented individuals. We are offering 25 of the most outstanding young scientists across Israeli institutions temporary position in Weizmann Lab. This will enable them to either complete their research or commence it while still in Israel. To fund this effort, we established Postdoctoral Continuity Fund, and we are turning to our worldwide friends to provide the support for these amazing postdocs. The fund is not just safety net for them, it's another way to invest in the future of science, and to do so in a time of need. The Institute continues to recruit the best new scientists, and the pandemic has not affected our ability to recruit them. Weizmann's reputation among Israeli postdocs is stellar, and our recruitment pipeline is very healthy indeed. 11 new scientists are joining in 2020. We can see them all in this slide. At any given moment, there is so much going on in the different areas on campus, but an aerial view of the whole landscape makes it apparent how everything is deeply interconnected. At Weizmann, we are beginning to shape the future of artificial intelligence. One of the biggest challenges that science is facing now is the sheer amount of data that is being generated and making sense of it all. We are swimming in data, in drug discovery and genetics, climate, environmental research, and astrophysics. Only sophisticated AI tools will enable us to get our arms around all that information, produce significant understanding, and offer the best possible application in a range of fields. That is the mission of our new artificial intelligence enterprise for scientific discovery. It will be built on our prominence in math, computer science, and neurobiology. It will integrate these insights into algorithms that will be the basis of new tools and technologies. It involves three key components. First, high-power computing, including hardware and software to house the process all the data. This is extremely expensive. Second, we must hire AI experts and programmers. These individuals are in high demand in industry, and we have to compete with industry salaries to get them. To that end, we have started a program to identify the best AI innovators and employ them for a period of 2 to 3 years. These experts will be at the forefront of the revolution in AI, which all starts with research. We already have 2 AI fellows who are funded by our friend, Robin Houston. This last component of this project is research grant, which will support the integration of AI into different fields, and the impact will be felt across campus, involving nearly all areas of science. This is a $100 million project focusing on those 3 segments: high-power computing, AI expert, and research grants. Moving on to our second flagship project, the Institute for Brain and Neurosciences. This major initiative will take on what is considered the last frontier of the life and biomedical sciences, the human brain and the neuronal system. In the last 2 decades, an explosion of knowledge and new technologies in genetics, imaging, and other fields has opened new research doors for neuroscientists. We can now investigate diseases that we had no way of seeing and little ways of understanding. We can now image the brain in high resolution, stimulate the brain and neural systems, and do genetics and molecular screening. So now we are at the point where many scientists have indeed generated new knowledge in a range of subfields in neuroscience, like brain development, mental illness, and disease like Alzheimer's and Parkinson's. They have come up with major insights in learning, cognition and memory, brain injury and regeneration, and how we perceive the world and how our brain helps us move, react, and function. But yet, there are so many more brain diseases and conditions that still mystify us. We find ourselves at the tipping point where the expertise and the massive body of knowledge exist, but many of the health problems are before us. What has to happen now is a process of harmonizing, synthesizing, and communicating across the different neuroscience subfields. At Weizmann, we have put a lot of thought over several years on how to make the next big jump in neuroscience, to make our lives healthier and better. After all, we are our brains. The Institute for Brain and Neurosciences will be housed in a state-of-the-art building, and it will enable us to bring together about 40 groups across campus. This lab will include members of the Department of Neurobiology, but not only. Many other labs are conducting research that have major implications for the brain. Just to take one example, Professor Tony Futterman has been working on Gaucher's disease for many years. Well, it turns out that the gene implicated in Gaucher's is also very prevalent in Parkinson's disease etiology. Weizmann is the best place to make this big undertaking happen. One of the reasons for that is that walls between departments here are artificial. So scientists like Tony, who is in the Department of Biomolecular Sciences, can easily make an impact on neuroscience simply by following his curiosity. This is a $200 million project. Half of that cost is the estimated construction cost of the building, and half is research grant, personnel, and equipment. We often talk about launching a project, and in the case of our third flagship, part of it literally will launch. The Frontier of the Universe project will leverage our expertise in astrophysics and particle physics to study phenomena at the grandest scale of the universe, all the way to the tiniest scale of particles. The Weizmann Institute is a physics powerhouse. Our theoreticians have pioneered approaches to help make sense of the matter of the universe. Our particle physicists have been very involved for decades in exploration like the Higgs boson at CERN, the Atlas project, and otherwise defining the fundamental building blocks of the universe. And our astrophysicists are deeply involved in international collaboration in space observation and exploration. A central feature of the Frontiers project will be Ultrasat, a satellite with a tiny but mighty telescope on board. Ultrasat is designed to alert ground-based telescope to transient events in space, like supernovas and the formation of black holes. This project has been enabled by the fact that space missions have dramatically declined in cost. So a revolution in space science is on the way, and Weizmann is there to make it happen in Israel. The Israel Space Agency is working with our scientists like Professor Eli Waxman and Professor Avishai Galyam and others on the Ultrasat project. We expect it to be the first of other initiatives in the Weizmann Space Program. The space program will be run from a state-of-the-art control room in the new Frontiers building. To house this effort and the space needs in particle physics, we have finalized plan for a new physics building. The total cost of Frontiers project is $100 million. I want to update you about buildings projects that are already well underway. We are continuing to build many nests on campus, and the situation hasn't slowed down construction, thankfully. The David Lupati Institute for Comparative Medicine building is moving along and should be ready at the end of 2021. We will break ground on the Andre Delors building for advanced and intelligent materials in January. We hope to have a groundbreaking ceremony at that time. The first 2 years alone will be devoted to digging underground and creating the foundation and the underground clean rooms. We expected about 9,000 truckloads of soil to be removed from the site. The pace of the renovation of the Clore Garden of Science has also not let up, and we expected the full renovation to be complete within 2.5 years. Building the physical entities that will house our research activities is, of course, just one part of the process of building the future of science. Strengthening the community on campus is another piece. During the pandemic, our social workers have been assisting our students and community as a whole. We have multiplied the budget of our Students' Welfare Fund to help students struggling with mental and physical health needs. As I mentioned before, our administration has been very active in helping foreign scientists, postdocs, and students returning to Israel from abroad deal with the travel and quarantine restriction. Also, in compliance with the law, we were forced to have percentage of our employees take paid vacation during the first and second lockdowns. Many scientists contributed their own vacation days to a pool so that their colleagues in administrative and technical units would not be in such a deficit. An act of solidarity that might be considered rare, but not on our campus. In December, we started the President's Roundtable with the aim to broaden communication between members of the faculty and hear out new ideas over dinner. We paused this initiative in March, and I'm looking forward to getting back to interacting with colleagues face to face. The outcome of all this investment is, of course, amazing science. One of the most interesting recent discoveries has come from the lab of Noam Stern-Genosar. She has found how viruses invade healthy cells and take over the cell system to survive and reproduce. She recently made some important discoveries on the coronavirus that you will hear about in the next session. Our regular research agenda has resulted in a steady stream of breakthroughs. Too many to list here, but I want to highlight a few. Professor Rotem Sorek uncovered the gold mine of antiviral substances that may lead to the development of highly effective antiviral drugs. Professor Yochai Kaspi developed a sophisticated clock that will be carried above a spacecraft to the planet Triton to measure the timing of radio waves. Professor Dan Taufik found a protein that appears to be the missing link in the evolution of all proteins. And Professor Ravit Straussman found bacteria living inside the cells of all cancer types and even identified different types of bacteria in various cancers. This work may help predict the effectiveness of cancer treatment and lead to new ones. These discoveries often result in special recognition, and I'm happy to say that two of our scientists won the prestigious Emet Prize this year, Reshef Tene and Dan Taufik, whose research has implication for the aerospace, medical, and chemical industries. Our scientists are able to reach these heights because they are supported by a steady stream of grants as well as philanthropy. Our scientists continue to be incredibly successful at attaining research grants of all kinds. In this graph, you can see that our success rate in attaining grants is 48%, which is extremely high. That percentage has remained stable over the last decade. Meanwhile, the number of submissions has grown dramatically. The net result is that we have received many more grants. Here you can see that the income from grants has grown in a big way. In the total, in purple, has doubled from just about $60 million to $120 million over a decade. In particular, grants from the ERC, the European Research Council, are very strong. According to the ERC ranking, we are ranked 7th in the total number of grants received as compared to other European institutions. Of course, when you normalize the total number for institutional size, the Weizmann Institute is clearly number one. This graph showed our success rate in attaining ERC grants, and you can see here that it is very high. You can see Weizmann's success in purple. The green is the average success rate across Europe. At the end of the day, all this excellence doesn't go unrecognized. This year, we rank 8th in the world by the Leiden ranking, a survey of research quality that normalizes for an institution's size. The ranking essentially removes the weight of the size of an institution from the equation and shows pure quality, not quantity. This is really a reflection of compact excellence. The Leiden ranking is measured across more than 1,000 institutions worldwide. Notably, we are the highest ranking non-American institutions. We have risen to number 8. A decade ago, we were at number 17. Leiden also drills down its ranking by research fields. You can see here 3 of the top fields at Weizmann, including life and health sciences, which is the 4th place. How do we ensure that these discoveries continue? The answer is we must continue to invest in the people and the resources. Our supporters and friends are helping us do that. More than 170 donors have contributed to the Coronavirus Response Fund. To date, we have raised $13 million US. Several of our biggest gifts came from Miel de Bouton, the Norman Alexander Family Foundation and Mark Alexander, Joyce Eisenberg Kiefer, and Milvia Perino. We have already begun raising money for the flagship projects, including a generous gift from Dr. John and Vera Schwartz for the artificial intelligence flagship. For the Frontier project, major gifts have come from the Norman Alexander Family Foundation and Mark Alexander, and an anonymous donor. For the Brand flagship project, our Brazil friends have committed to support the Center for Neurodegenerative Research, and Anthony Beck has made a major gift to mental health research. Gladys Monroe and Larry Marks have made a generous gift for the flagship above and beyond their existing Center for Brain Disorder Research, and an anonymous Israeli donor has also given a visionary gift to this project. The Beck family has also enlarged its already substantial gift to the Tom and Mary Beck Center for Advanced and Intelligent Materials. We received a major estate gift from Andrea Klepeter-Falek for science education at the Davidson Institute. We are grateful for all of these donations and many others. The pandemic has led to a decline in pledges this year, and we are concerned about philanthropy and needs to focus hard on this area. After all, if there is anything the coronavirus has shown us, is that science must be one step ahead. This requires thoughtful planning about the needs as well as serious investment to keep humanity healthy. Our technology transfer efforts involve placing new emphasis on identifying the metaphorical eggs in the nest that have the potential to become swans. Professor Orit Sagi, the Vice President of Technology Transfer, is currently establishing the Translational Research Unit, or TRU, to enable this. This is an internal mechanism that will work with our scientists to make this happen by offering incubator services and business mentoring. We have hired a new COO for YEDA, Dr. Ofer Shapira, who will advance the most promising discoveries from our labs into the marketplace. I want to welcome Ofer warmly. Irit and Ofer and their teams will identify potential successes and take them to the commercial domain. In this way, we will exploit knowledge derived from our research so that it benefits the world in the form of drugs and technologies. Our new budget for the coming year is designed to meet the challenges of the COVID-19 crisis and the forecast for global recession. But at the same time, it will enable us to maintain the highest level of scientific research, so we are not sacrificing anything in terms of scientific quality. On the contrary, our research has only spread its wings and is taking off in new directions. As you can see here on this graph, despite the pandemic, the operating and development budget for 2021 is slightly higher than last year's budget. This follows our new financial principle that we implemented a couple of months ago and is already reflected in this year's operating and development budget. We are calling it the basic principle, which stands for budget, asset, and sources of income chart. It is a more transparent, streamlined financial management approach, emphasizing greater oversight, and it allows for long-term planning around our scientific vision. We have devised a new approach for the Scientific Academic Advisory Committee, the SAC, which enables more frequent and more thorough oversight of our research and detailed feedback to our scientists so that they can continually improve and refine their research. We are grateful to Professor Herbert Yekle for chairing the committee that recommended the new approach. I would like to add a special welcome here to Tamir Kadishi, our new head of finance, who took on that role in May. I want to thank Yuval Lazarov for his many years of service, who moves on a new position outside the Institute. I also want to welcome Dana Bernstein, the new head of the Communication Department, who replaced Ivsam Asgad. I want to thank Ivsam for his many years of dedicated service on behalf of the Institute. He's continuing to serve as the Institute curator. If there is anything that we have learned in the last few months, it is the importance of science literacy for the public. At the Weizmann, as you know, we have a built-in mechanism for science literacy, and that is the Davidson Institute for Science Education. Its leader and staff realized the need immediately back in March and leverages its existing online programming to educate the public and also assist schools and students to learn about immunity, infection, and more. Its stuck-at-home site is now in Hebrew, English, Arabic, Spanish, and will soon be in German. Like birds in motion migrating across great distances, nature never stops. It doesn't even really take breaks. Even when birds touch ground to drink and rest, the bodies and brains are in constant internal motion. Just like Rafi Malach's studies of creativity in the brain resting state, nature is busy. As many of you know, Israel is on the crossroad of the bird migration route between Europe and Africa, known as the Great Rift Valley Flyway. Weizmann is likewise the crossroad of science where activity never stops. As you can see from the many things I have talked about, our scientists, management, and staff have advanced our research agendas and other activities tirelessly and without pause. And the Institute has been extremely productive in this very unusual year. But rather than hearing it from me, this whole week will be a chance for you to hear it directly from our outstanding scientists and many colleagues across campus. I hope you are looking forward to it as much as I am. I want to close by thanking all of our partners, our board members, our donors, and our committees around the world who are working every day on behalf of the Institute. I would like to thank our scientists and all our employees throughout many units across campus who make the Institute the unique place that it is. And last but not least, I would like to thank my management team, Professor Ziv Reich, Professor Rit Sagi, Professor Rio Zeri, and Professor Alon Armelin. Thank you for your attention, and I wish you all good health, an informative and enjoyable board week.